7, 10, 9, 8. Ignition sequence has started. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. We have commit and we have liftoff at 2:13. The Saturn V building up to 7.6 million pounds of thrust, and it is
The
clear
name
to tower.
of Fred Haise belongs to the Astronauts Hall of Fame. We had the privilege to interview him a few days before the Italian Space Festival in Busalla, remembering his extraordinary mission 50 years ago. Fred Haise, a member of the Apollo 13 crew, was the pilot of the Aquarius lunar module. Jack Schweikart was the pilot of the Odyssey command module, and Jim Lovell was the mission commander. The mission is described in the NASA books as a successful failure. The movie Apollo 13 by Ron Howard with Tom Hanks and Fred Haise vividly recounts that successful shipwreck.
Yeah, hello, this is Fred Haise, Apollo 13 lunar module pilot. I wish I could join you at the Space Festival. I appreciate and congratulate you and Senor Mileno, the mayor of Busalla, for this conference and festival, which I know is quite a bit of work to prepare. But I'm sure it will contribute to many young people who I hope are there to attend, to learn a little bit about space in a fun sort of way, and also some of the adults also will learn something about space.
Dear Fred, NASA is working at fast pace for a return to the moon, to stay. What is your vision of manned spaceflight in the near future? Please give us your thoughts of the return to the moon.
Right. No, I know NASA currently has plans with the Artemis program to go back to the moon. It's been way too long that we have not done that. I look forward to it, and I was really buoyed by the success of SpaceX just a few days ago with their first manned flight to the space station, which will be a part of that program to get back to the moon. Of course, in the United States, and I assume in Italy or in the European Space Agency, whether you get there or not depends in a large part on how the government, in this case the U.S. government, continues to support and fund the program. That's really been a problem with NASA since Apollo. Was really the last program which I would say had fully adequate support and funding throughout that program. So that's the question mark. I obviously I think we can achieve going back to the moon, and I hope do even grander things when we do.
Dear Fred, you are one of the very few persons who have circumnavigated the moon. You saw with your eyes the hidden face of the moon and planet Earth very far away in the sky. Could you recount what impressed you the most?
Well, one of the two things that was most unusual to me from my flying experience, I had been a military pilot in 2 fighter squadrons in the Marine Corps and had 7 years as a NASA test pilot. So I've flown a lot of different kinds of airplanes, done flight tests for 7 years. But the most unusual thing, other than zero gravity, feeling that on the continuum, was the views out the window. Obviously spectacular views of Earth as we went to the moon and back, but a little different from our view of the moon. As we went around the backside, we were almost at double the altitude of the normal lunar missions, which went into orbit at about 60 miles. We passed by the backside of the moon at a little over 130 miles. So it gave us I call it a broader view of what we could see on the backside, and it was impressive in the sense of being much more rugged overall than what we see from Earth, which keeps one face toward the Earth all the time of the moon. It had very few of those dark areas, the Mars or Cs, they're called. The most prominent ones are named by Russia because Russia sent the first probe to shoot pictures of the moon, and we had a very beautiful view of Tsiolkovsky, one beautiful crater with a sort of a mountain left in the center. Tsiolkovsky was one of the early Russian rocket designers, scientists, much like our Dr. Goddard in the United States. And the other larger one was called the Sea of Moscow that we saw. But overall, a very rugged look to the backside of the moon. So I was very impressed with that. Unfortunately, brief, but good look at the back at a little more than half of the backside of the moon.
Houston, we've had a problem.
Fred, would you mind sharing those most dramatic moments aboard traveling to the moon when your spacecraft suffered that terrible accident and your lives were suddenly in very serious danger?
Well, the Apollo 13 mission was my big chance. I trained for two previous missions. Apollo 8, the first time we went to the moon, I was backed up Bill Anders. And then I backed up Buzz Aldrin for Apollo 11, the mission that we landed the first time. So this was my big chance. I was going to get to land on the moon and with Jim Lovell, get to walk around a little bit. And we had this problem, rather serious problem on the way with the loss of an oxygen tank, an explosion that also crippled the second tank. We only had two tanks. And so it put us in a bad spot because the oxygen, not so much for breathing, but was critical with hydrogen to feed fuel cells, which was our primary electric power. And within an instant of getting back from where I was in the lunar module at the time, actually, to my position in surveying the instruments, I knew we had lost the mission, that we would not be able to land even with the loss of one tank. I did not know at that time that we were also going to lose the second one. The leak was very slow and it was not apparent we were going to lose the second tank. So it was not, instantly, it was not life-threatening. With the second tank, we'd just keep everything powered up and abort and come home as soon as possible. So it's more of an emotional, sad thing. Because, well, I was really sick to my stomach with disappointment because I'd done all that work preparing for this mission, and it was not going to happen now. It was a good case though, and it's sort of become a folk story of having problems and having people work together to get around the problem. In fact, there was a larger number of people. There was a movie made about the incident, Apollo 13. And unfortunately, Ron Howard could not afford the cast that really was involved because it was a lot more people in Mission Control. In fact, it only showed Gene Kranz as the flight director with one crew, his white team. There actually were 4 teams that supported the mission 24 hours a day. And there are also a lot of people outside of Mission Control, in fact, across the country, back at contractors who had built the spacecraft, engineers who had designed and knew the systems that were called upon consulting to help with solving some of the problems. This was not unique. Most of our training, in fact, the skits we did for launches, for entries, lunar orbit or landing on the moon, there was a special group behind the scenes for each of those training sessions that tried to devise a series of failures to be put into the simulation that would make us look bad. They worked hard. They were very devious people. And so we were highly tested to see and handle failures before we flew. We had thousands of hours in these simulators that could emulate the spacecraft. And so we felt fairly comfortable to when we got ready to fly, that we probably could handle anything that might happen, at least credible failures. Apollo 13 was a little different in having this explosion incident. Explosions, of course, were considered. Primarily rocket engines sometimes do not behave well, and that was a primary concern maybe with rocket engines, but also explosions of things like cryogenic tanks. And the manifestation of that type of failure in the failure mean effects analysis reports, FEMAs they were called, was that you would lose the vehicle and you would lose the crew. So we put them in a bad spot because we were still around and still breathing.
Fred, many thanks. I hope to see you in person soon.